Yeah.
Next up, Karan, John Malone. John Malone, John
You
Malone, John
go
Malone, John
ahead.
Malone.
Take it
I
away.
don't think we can talk about John Malone enough. I think we should talk about him more.
He deserves
Sometimes,
another episode like by himself.
oh, totally. We can do the
Cable Cowboys. Yeah.
Cable Cowboys, yeah, or the King of Cable, or whatever the book is called. I guess there's a couple of them. One of the greatest ever, maybe the greatest ever. $1 invested in 1973 ended up being 900 by
Ridiculous. Yeah.
1998. That's not even that long. That's 25 years, Karan.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Um, Sometimes I look at some John Malone companies out there like Liberty Media,
Right.
and I have two thoughts. The first thought is maybe I should just buy his businesses because I know it's going to work out well. It's like they all seem to be usually a little undervalued, not that loved because they're confusing and people don't really follow them. But they're doing all these great things with like spin-offs and tax advantage stuff and buybacks and value creation. Uh, but then I start looking at his businesses and I get confused and cry, and I end up not buying. So definitely take some time to figure out what he's doing. But
It's
yeah,
about the
man,
terms. It's like how we saw with Blackstone, it's like the way they made the money was in the details. It's in the terms. And that's also what I see with John Malone. He uses a lot of financial leverage, a lot of um, things that might not be obvious, to the everyday investor. But he
this business
delivers.
owns a part of that business, and this business you can get it with this stock ticker, but that business has that stock ticker, and it's a lot going on.
Funny, like you mentioned that because so one of the companies that I'm invested in is Liberty Global, which is a John Malone company.
Mhm.
And just I think yesterday or today, they put out a form that said that they're going to switch their domicile, uh, and this is to improve value for shareholders. Now, this is not something that I know a lot about, right? I have to start studying up on it. But clearly, it's a John Malone move. Like it is so like quintessentially John Malone.
Yeah, I think he's got a quote in
He
this
hates
book.
paying taxes. Yeah.
He hates paying taxes, and he loves math. And I think there's a quote in this book. Maybe the word's algebra, maybe it's math, but I think he says something like they haven't outlawed mathematics yet, or something like that. And I
Right.
guess his point is like the interviewer, the author was like, how'd you do this? How'd you turn $1 into 900? And he's like, we looked at the math and we did smart things. And so one thing that comes to mind for me is like you look at that math and it's like a lot of times with investing, um, there's situations you could look at like Occidental Petroleum, and you could look at like, okay, what's the price of the business? What are they expected to earn? Cash flow. What are they expected to reinvest in the business? Oh, and then that huge chunk left over with buybacks and dividends. If they do that, what is my bond like return going to be at this price? And maybe it's something like 19-20% for the foreseeable future. And it's like,
Mhm.
that's just purely mathematics. And then all this stuff comes into your head about the noise about, well, what if oil goes down a bunch? Or what if OPEC does this? Or what if so and so, all these things that don't really have to do with the business. And so, again, maybe oil is a bad example because it definitely
Yeah. How
depends on
can
that.
oil prices not impact oil
Well,
companies?
yeah, so it's a bad example because you can always think about, well, I guess because I don't think oil is going to go down long
Unless it's
term.
go like super ridiculously cheap, like nothing.
But I yeah, I don't. It won't for the long term. So,
Mm.
um, but it's like you get these situations where it's like, oh, okay, a company earns this, they're buying back this much, and you can see the mathematics of how things work.
Right.
But then a lot of noise gets in there, and so I just love the way he focused on like, no, we make these kind of returns. If we layer on leverage, can we pay for it? Yes, we can, because this is a locked in customer base, and it would actually increase our earnings because we can deduct the interest off our taxes. Okay, if we go acquire this company and pay this price, we're going to get this return. If we do this again, we're going to get this. And they just had a playbook and they ran their playbook. And I think in this chapter he talked about like they had very specific return goals when they were going to acquire a cable system. And if
Right.
they did not meet those return goals, they would not do it. So I thought
Mhm.
that was interesting. one final thing is they talked about when it came time to upgrade his cable system and get his customers up to speed and the top technology that other companies were offering. I think he basically just sold the business. So is my recollection, or he was very slow to put in those upgrades. So very mathematical driven. But again, Karan, that industry, as you well know, maybe better than anyone in the world, as you know better than anyone in the world has known it over the last 30 days, as you know it to the maximum extent that someone can know it. The cable industry maxed out in the last few years, and it's a different industry. So this playbook in this industry can't be repeated because the industry is different.